9, Tanya Hall here. Thank you for joining us at KGGR 1040 AM and 106.9 FM. And of course, we are here to talk about an amazing unveiling of some historical things that are going to happen out at Baylor University on tomorrow, April 4th. And I have before me Dr. Malcolm Foley, who is a special advisor to the president for equity and campus engagement and the director of the Black Church Studies program at Baylor's Truett Seminary. He is also co-chair of the Campus Experience Project team, which is implementing the recommendations of the Commission on Historic Representations. And I'm sure this could go on and on and on about Dr. Foley, but we have him here in our presence today to talk about a very special unveiling regarding the first Black graduates of Baylor University back in 1967, I believe. But right. I won't go into the story. I'll let the historian and the expert come on in here and tell us a little bit about it. Welcome to the show, Dr. Malcolm Foley. We are having a pleasure to have you here.
It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. First of all, let's get into, before we tell them about this event that's happening tomorrow, the landscape of Baylor University is going to change forever on that day, which is tomorrow. The university will dedicate those 2 statues that I talked a little bit about, commemorating the late Reverend Robert L. Gilbert and Mrs. Barbara Walker. Again, the first students to earn their undergraduate degrees from the University of Baylor. And it is amazing. So I know you had a big hand in this, Dr. Foley. First of all, tell everybody who you are and what you do over at Baylor University.
Sure. So my name's Dr. Malcolm Foley. So my job as special advisor to Baylor's president is really the way that I think about my position is that I'm thinking through how do we make Baylor a more just and equitable institution. Especially along the lines of racial justice, but there are a number of different things that we need to keep in mind when we're thinking about, especially a large institution of higher ed, how we actively care for every member of the community, and not just Baylor's community, but the community that it's surrounded by in Waco broadly.
Well, I want you to tell us a little bit about how this project came forward with even thinking about providing a physical representation of history of those statues of Reverend Robert L. Gilbert and, of course, Miss Barbara A. Walker. How did that even come about? What idea was it that spun that to happen?
So the Board of Regents gathered a group back in 2020 specifically to investigate Baylor's history with slavery, and so especially as a Christian institution, something that's been really important to me is that we recognize that Christians had specifically a particular role in justifying slavery when we look at our nation's history. And so because of that, institutions that have the name of Christian on them have a particular responsibility to remedy that harm. But that begins with reckoning with history. And so this was something that the Board of Regents wanted to do. They gathered a group of folks to investigate that history. I was on that commission. And then as a result of that commission, there were a number of recommendations, some of which were systemic, some of which were symbolic. One of the symbolic recommendations was let's have new statues of our first 2 Black graduates. And so soon after getting my position at Baylor, this was one of the first things that I was tasked to do, partnering with a good partner at the university, our vice president of marketing and communications, Jason Cook. He and I were like, let's do this and do this right.
So what was it did I hear you say it started in 2020? Wow. And here we are in 2023, and tomorrow is going to go down. This is amazing. Now, I want you to tell us a little bit about Reverend Robert L. Gilbert and Miss Barbara A. Walker. Tell us a little bit about the background. Who were they as students at Baylor?
Yeah. Well, and this is the what's really interesting to me is the fact that Baylor spent 118 years of its history as a formally segregated institution. There were no Black students until 1964. Um,
64.
and
Mhm.
and the and the and the school was founded in 1845. So already you have a school where its culture has been formed without certain folks in mind. Miss Walker, when she will talk about her experience at Baylor, she was able to make some really good kind of lifelong friendships, and was able to navigate the space, in a way that she would say she was able to navigate it pretty well. Reverend Gilbert, throughout his time, had ups and downs, and that's something that ought not surprise us for the Black men and women who integrated a number of the United States institutions, particularly in that decade.
Absolutely.
It wasn't fun. Especially not being in situations where folks would face not just, I mean, open hostility in some cases, but also just indifference in others. It was a difficult thing to do. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we want to have these statues, is because we want to bear witness to the kind of institution that we want to be. Often through monuments, I think it's one of the primary things that we communicate through monuments. We communicate our values. We generally don't use monuments to actually teach history. They're generally kind of physical representations of the kinds of people that we want to be.
Right.
When we think about particularly the courage and the resilience of folks like Reverend Gilbert and Miss Walker, those are the kinds of qualities that we want to instill in every student who comes through Baylor's doors.
Absolutely. Do we know what they chose as careers after they left Baylor University?
Yeah, so Reverend Gilbert pastored, and Miss Walker had her career in social work. Both of them were deeply committed to love of neighbor, which is also something that we hope is something that every Baylor student gets, because it's fundamental to the commands that Christ has given us. He's told us to love the Lord our God with our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. If we as an institution aren't training folks to do that well, we have no right to call ourselves Christian in the first place.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about these statues that are going to be unveiled on tomorrow. Who was the artist of them?
Yes. So Ben Victor is our artist. He is, I believe he's definitely the youngest sculptor to have as many statues as he does in the Capitol Statuary Hall. He's got 3 now, working on a 4th that he's almost done with. But just an amazing sculptor. When we went through this process to kind of look for the artist, he popped out. And not only is he a wonderful sculptor, but he really got the vision, and was really excited about doing this work. Being able to not only shape Baylor's landscape, but to really think about kind of symbolically bearing witness to a new future. And so it's been a wonderful partnership. It's been not only a wonderful partnership with him, but really high quality work too. So we're really excited.
It's wonderful, and I can't wait to see them as well. And I know it's all a buzz on the campus of Baylor, with everybody wanting to see those sculptures unveiled on tomorrow. Before we go, and I tell everybody what time, where they can be there, and if it's an RSVP, but it's not necessary if you want to attend. And I'll tell them a little bit more information in a moment. But I want you to close us out before I give them this information, and tell us what this means to you and Baylor University to have such a historical moment on tomorrow.
Yeah. Whenever I think about this work, the broader work of the commission, as well as these particular statues, I think the story of the gospel is a story of reckoning, of repentance, and reconciliation.
Mhm.
And those are also the three things that we want to communicate when we do things like this, that we as an institution have to reckon with our history, turn from the ways in which those things are devoted to sin, and turn toward the Lord, and turn toward our neighbor. But then we also have to be reconciled with one another. We have to become a community that the world can look at and think, hey, we want to be a part of that, to which our response is repent and believe, and you can get in on this too. And so this is an opportunity, I think, to have a physical representation of that journey that we're constantly trying to walk down.
This is wonderful, Dr. Malcolm Foley. Well, let me go ahead and give everybody the information as to when this ceremony is going to take place. It's tomorrow again, and it's going to be happening. Let me make sure I get this right. Ceremony feature. Okay, so it's going to be 1:30 p.m. outside of Baylor's historic Tidwell Bible Building, and that's located at 575 James Avenue. Of course, everybody knows Baylor is in Waco. Again, it's at 1:30 outside that Tidwell Bible Building. There's going to be a ceremony that will follow after the unveiling. You can go online to RSVP, but it is not necessary to attend. So if you want to just show up like we do sometimes, it's okay to show right up. So this is going to be a wonderful time. Who all will be there? Tell us some of the folks that we can expect to see out there.
So one of the things is Miss Walker will be there. A number of members of Reverend Gilbert's family are going to be there as well. Baylor's president, chair of the board, number of board members, a number of members of just the Baylor community, students, faculty, staff. The mayor pro temp of Waco will be there as well. It'll be a good time.
It's going to be a wonderful time, everybody. Again, they can go to, what's the website there at the Baylor University?
Oh yeah, I'll have to check the website for this particular thing. But
Baylor,
it's just Baylor. Yeah. It's just I think it's just Baylor.edu. You'll be able to see to see the events and all that kind of stuff.
And if you just throw it in your GPS, of course, Tidwell Bible Building, it'll take you right there. And again, that's tomorrow, the unveiling of these historical statues of Reverend Robert L. Gilbert and Barbara A. Walker. And Miss Walker is still alive, correct? And she is. So this is
she'll be there.
It'll be wonderful to hear what she has to say as the first Black graduate of Baylor University. Dr. Malcolm Foley, what a pleasure.
It's good to be with you.
All right. Thank you so much for being here today. And I hope to see your face out there tomorrow. I'm going to look for you.
All right. I'll see you soon.
All right. Take care. That's going to do it for News You Can Use. I'm Tanya Hall. And of course, this is 1040 AM and 106.9 FM KGGR.